Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and this week we are discussing the art of prioritizing your happiness. I'm very excited to dive into this topic this week because it's something that I feel like gets said a lot, but it's not always taken as seriously as it should, at least in my opinion. I am a big believer that we are able to experience and feel happiness every single day, no matter what comes up in our life and no matter what's going on within us. I understand that emotions come and go and we're not fully in control of them, but there is definitely a way to create happiness for ourselves no matter what. And it's important that we do so no matter what, so that when life does happen and life starts to become more stressful or challenging for whatever reason, we have some sort of foundation that keeps us grounded in ourselves, secure in ourselves, proud of ourselves, and also balanced. Because when it comes to stress and when it comes to being overwhelmed by life, they're all normal experiences and things that we all feel as human. The only problem is with stress is that many times we're not balancing it out with things that restore us and recharge us. And that's when it starts to take a negative toll on our body and our mind. So if we have a system in place where we are restoring ourselves through things that bring us joy and make us happy, we'll genuinely begin to enjoy every single day of our lives, regardless of what might unfold beyond our control. I also felt inspired to discuss this topic this week because I didn't yet share with you guys how I was feeling behind the scenes during the podcast break that I took for 2 months, and how I brought myself back to recording every week after feeling so burnt out by something that I truly love. And I wanted to share that. So I will get into that more throughout this episode. But first, as some of you may know, if you've listened to the past few episodes, the way that we are going about this podcast is different than we have in the past. Instead of going through the 4 steps that I've written about and posted on my Instagram and my Threads account at She Is Artfully Woman, I like to pick a topic that I feel like can benefit us all, and it's something that I am working on in real time so that I can give you the most up-to-date perspective of mine. With that topic, I then like to meditate and come up with 3 very important questions that I think would benefit us to discuss more in depth so that we can learn as much as we can and apply it in our lives. So let's get into the first question. What does it mean to prioritize your happiness? Because it's a very vague title, and happiness is pretty vague too. When I say prioritizing your happiness, what I'm referring to is anything that restores your energy. And that can be so many things. I'll just list off a few. It can be a good night's sleep. It can be getting fresh air, getting sunlight on your skin, walking in nature, praying, journaling, reading, any sort of creating, such as painting, drawing, writing. Those are all different sources of happiness, and quite a few of them are free, but they're not always things that we prioritize every single day. Especially because as we get older, we tend to become more and more responsible for ourselves and our lives, and that takes up our time. Also, if we are parents, a lot of our time goes to taking care of other people as well. So it can be quite challenging to really carve out time for things that we don't necessarily need to do. We can get away with pushing off until the weekend, let's say. It's important to remember that if we don't intentionally prioritize incorporating things into our daily routine that bring us happiness, then what we're doing is we're limiting ourselves from enjoying our days to the fullest. I remember when I was in my late teens and my early 20s, I never felt like I had control over the amount of happiness I was able to feel in my life. I felt like when things were going wrong, quote unquote, around me, whether I had drama in my life or some sort of chaos in my life and uncertainty in my life, I would always feel at the mercy of all of it. And I didn't know at the time that by prioritizing certain things in my daily routine, I could really make myself a lot happier, no matter what. When I was younger, I definitely did not prioritize a good night's sleep. And it's so funny because when we're young, our parents are always telling us that we need to get a good night's sleep. And honestly, I always thought that they told me this so that I would just go to bed early and then, they can relax. because the kids are asleep. But the truth is, if you do not get a good night's sleep, you do not fully enjoy the following day because you are tired. You are tackling everything that you need to tackle with limited energy. And that is just draining by default. The same thing applies to getting fresh air. This is something that many of us that are not used to getting daily fresh air, perhaps we work a 9 to 5 in an office, we don't notice the difference because we're not really outside that much. We wake up in the morning, we get ready at home, we get in our car, we drive to work, which is indoors, then we get back in our car when work is over. Maybe we'll meet up with some friends at some place that's also indoors, but then we come back home and that's the end of the night. Maybe you go to the gym, maybe you go to a workout class, but again, indoors. And you're just basically always indoors. You're not really getting fresh air. Maybe you can have your window open when you're home or your window down when you're in the car, but it's not the same thing as just being outside, surrounded by fresh air. And that alone will increase your happiness. Spending time outside decreases stress. Another simple but very effective way to prioritize your happiness is by making sure that you go outside when the sun is out and let it touch your face. Let it warm you up. There's something so healing about that physical sensation. If you know, you know. If you're not someone that is really outside in nature that much, just think about a time you went to the beach. There's many things that we all love about being at the beach, but I guarantee that one of them is that the sun is kissing our skin. It's relaxing. It feels as if the sun is almost recharging us. I'll give one more example that I have noticed personally has allowed me to feel happier every single day, no matter what. And that is praying / expressing gratitude. Because if you're not someone that prays, I completely get it. I definitely did not pray for a big chunk of my adult years. I've only recently started getting into it, and it's honestly just 3 small prayers. Gratitude, I feel, has a very similar benefit to praying because it forces you to pause, to stop focusing on the external, meaning the physical world doesn't matter for a few minutes, and you just reflect on your life, on your day, for what you do have, for the blessings that you have already been given, and you're just acknowledging them and you're expressing gratitude for them. And when we do that, we're reminding ourselves that we have so many reasons to be happy, regardless of what's going on in the current moment. I think expressing gratitude is a very underrated habit because when you first start off and you're not used to thinking of 5 things that you're grateful for every single day, it can feel like a chore, it can feel annoying, and it can feel like, okay, well, I already know that I have so much to be grateful for. I am grateful, but life is really kicking my ass right now. The thing is, we want to train our brain to constantly scan for the good in our lives, no matter what's bringing us down, so that when things do bring us down, it doesn't overwhelm us too much. We still see the positive in it all. By incorporating some of the things I just mentioned, and honestly, incorporating all of the things I mentioned, I can guarantee you, you will experience happiness every single day, no matter what you're going through. And these things are free. It's crazy when you really think about it, because I remember not too long ago, my happiness was tied to a lot of things that I needed to spend money on to receive, whether it was vacations, going out with my friends, buying myself gifts, buying other people gifts. And those things do bring happiness, I'm not going to lie, but it's a very temporary happiness and it's not self-sourced, which means it's not as pure. So to summarize everything I said, prioritizing your happiness means you are committing to a few habits every single day that restore your energy. And you do not negotiate on these habits no matter what is going on in your life. Obviously, we all have our moments and we all have our days where we fall off with commitment, but never make a habit out of it. I remember I saw some sort of fitness video once, and they said that if you were to go off your diet for a day, it's fine, but don't go off your diet for 2 days because that's you reinforcing a negative habit. So I would say do the same thing when it comes to prioritizing your happiness. If you, for some reason, were unable to get a good night's sleep one night, it's okay, but don't make a habit of it and do it again 2 nights in a row. Plus, there's also this added happiness, almost like a bonus to these habits when you are committing long term and you are disciplined. Because surprisingly, discipline and commitment is its own source of happiness and joy. But this is something that takes time to experience. So just keep that in mind. The beautiful thing about happiness that you feel from commitment and discipline is that it fuels you so effortlessly to commit to these habits that are making you so happy on a daily basis. For example, I committed to walking 10,000 steps every single day, no matter what, unless I'm sick. And I mean, so sick that I can't get out of bed, which thank God has not happened yet this year. And I believe I began this on my birthday, which is the beginning of November. I have committed to this for, let me count how many months. 6 months officially, which is incredible. But I'll be honest, the joy I feel now when I walk is so much larger than the joy that I felt in November when I was still building on that habit. I was definitely happy that I was committing to something at the time, and I was definitely happy that I went for a walk in nature because, like I said, fresh air, sunlight, it all brings you joy. But I still needed to push myself to commit. There were days when I didn't feel like doing 10,000 steps. I was tired, I didn't get good sleep. There were so many excuses. And I had to push past all of those excuses to remain committed. But now, 6 months later, it's the fact that I committed for 6 months that makes me so excited to get out of bed every day to continue what I've built for myself, this system of daily happiness. And I also reaped the physical benefits of walking every single day. Luckily, I've been able to lose some stubborn weight that I've been holding on to. And on top of that, my mental health, oh my gosh, has gotten so much better. And it's not that I wasn't mentally healthy. I was, thank God, but stress doesn't get to me the way it used to before I started walking. There is something about being outside in the fresh air that really clears the mind of any clutter. So if you are not someone that walks intentionally every day, I really recommend you try it out. Something that I do to trick my brain to committing to things that are hard is I set the bar very low. I'll tell myself, you don't have to commit to 10,000 steps every day. You just have to go on one walk a day. And you just have to walk for 20 minutes and see how you feel, which is what I did before my birthday in November. I would only go for one walk a day, 20 minutes, and it would feel so good and so refreshing that I would always stay outside past 20 minutes walking. And then once that became very easy and effortless, I was able to leave the house every day, and that wasn't a challenge anymore. I started to set the bar a little bit higher and commit to a step count. So try that with yourself. One other tip that I want to share, perhaps you don't have a problem setting a daily challenge for yourself, but perhaps committing to something long term is overwhelming because it sounds like taking on a big project. I totally get that. What I recommend for that is, again, trick your brain and tell yourself, I'm going to see if I can commit to 10,000 steps for one day. That's more achievable than telling yourself, I'm going to hit 10,000 steps every single day for a year. Once you accomplish your goal for one day, tell yourself, I wonder if I can do it for 2 days. And then after that, I wonder if I could do it for 3 days. And I wonder if I can do it for a week, a month, so on and so forth. That has personally always worked for me. So try it out and see how it goes. I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences if you do decide to start walking. Now, let's get into the next question. How do we know what actually makes us happy versus what distracts us? This is a good question. We definitely covered a few of the basic ways to prioritize your happiness on a daily basis. We said sleep, fresh air, sunlight, walking in nature, praying, expressing gratitude. I'm going to add a few more just to give you some ideas. And then we're going to get into the gray area, the things that we do or might want to do on a daily basis that might seem like it's us prioritizing our happiness, but it isn't. And we'll get into why that is. Some more examples of things that add to our joy on a daily basis. We have meditating, cooking a good, healthy meal for yourself, cleaning your house, surprisingly, but cleaning your house with the intention of wanting to declutter your space, not because you feel like you have to or you feel disgusted by your environment. That can drain your energy and stress you out. Also, exercise, of course, reading, and honestly, just prioritizing some alone time where you don't talk to anyone, you don't go on your phone, you don't respond to messages, and you're not in the company of anyone else. Now, on to the things that we think might make us happy, but it's truly just distracting us from ourselves and how we truly feel. These are usually going to be the things that give us a quick hit of dopamine. These are things that numb us to how we feel. They are things that overstimulate us. And they are also things that drain us slowly, usually without us realizing. That doesn't mean that you can't do these things on a daily basis or that it's going to ruin your day. Of course not. But it's important to keep this in mind when you are thinking about how you're spending your time every day and where you can cut back in certain areas to actually replace them with better habits that make you happy, short term and long term. Some of this fake happiness that is truly a distraction is scrolling for hours on social media, whether we're on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, you name it. It can feel really entertaining in the heat of the moment, but usually when we get off our phone or our device, we feel drained, a little bit restless, and overstimulated. Next, constant texting or talking to someone. This is surprisingly something that can really drain our energy. Even though we can be texting and talking to the people we love, it still takes away from us being present in our own lives. So, definitely text your friends, talk to your friends on the phone, but have boundaries with it. Make sure that you're not overextending yourself by constantly responding to messages the second they come in on your phone. And you're not staying on the phone for hours and hours when there isn't really much conversation going on so that you can really pour back into yourself and you don't end up feeling drained and very distracted. Next, overeating or just emotional eating, honestly. And this is something that I really had to check myself on before I got very serious about my health, which began at the end of last year. I believe it's when I published the episode, The Art of Breaking Out of Autopilot. I realized I was definitely focusing on being physically active in my life, but I wasn't focusing on nutrition because it was always very intimidating to me, honestly. But still, there was a lot of unhealthy lifestyle choices I was making in terms of the food that I was consuming, and one of it was emotional eating. And the thing is, with emotional eating, if you have experienced it, it's not necessarily that we're eating because we feel some intense emotion. I feel like that's usually how it's portrayed. You don't have to be extremely sad or extremely anxious to eat a lot of food. You could simply just be bored. And I realized that for me, I would sometimes eat because I was bored, or I would eat because I was a little overwhelmed or stressed by the responsibilities that I had to tackle throughout the day. It's important that we are honest with ourselves when we are doing things that are giving us that quick happiness so that we can really get to the root of how we feel. When we are seeking these quick hits, it's because we are craving real joy. We are craving real happiness. We're craving that walk. We're craving that fresh air. We're craving some sort of activity that is truly restoring our energy. But sometimes it can feel like work because it's not always something that comes naturally to us. If you are serious about really enjoying your life a lot more on a day to day basis, I would advise you to start writing down the things that you're doing every single day. Maybe you have a planner already, so you do write down what you need to accomplish and what you plan to do. If you don't, I recommend you do get some sort of planner that breaks down the day by hour and then has a little to do list on the side. That's what I personally use. And review it. See how much of your time is going to things that you kind of don't really have a choice but to do, like work, cleaning, cooking, for example, and then see how much of your day is going towards things that are actually lifting you up and that's actually restoring your energy short term and long term. Sometimes we think that we don't have enough time in our day to go for a walk, we don't have enough time in our day to get enough sleep. But I can almost guarantee you that if we were to get really strict about all the time we're putting in to these quick hits of happiness, such as scrolling for hours, watching TV, constantly texting and talking to someone on the phone, and yes, even overeating, we would be able to gain so much more time in our day and actually utilize it for much better things. I honestly don't expect this to be something that everyone is motivated to do. I wasn't motivated to do this until I turned 26, honestly. And it's okay if you're not, but just know that when you are ready, to take more responsibility for your life and make your happiness your responsibility, you have these tools and you have this advice on how to go about it. Before we move on to the last question, I just want to say that you should definitely allow flexibility in your life. There are those days where sleep is not the priority. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're going out with your friends late at night. That's perfectly fine. Just remember balance. If you're not getting a good night's sleep one night, prioritize it the next night. Don't keep pushing it off. And if you're having a day where you do have to talk to someone on the phone throughout the whole day for whatever reason, go on a walk while you talk to them on the phone so that you're really balancing out your day and you're restoring yourself while life is asking more of you. Now, the last thing that I wanted to discuss is why is it so important to prioritize your happiness every single day? I know I touched on the basic reasons why, but I feel like because I knew younger me very well and I knew that she was very content with not being happy every day. She didn't think it was the biggest deal. As long as she had something to look forward to in the nearby future that would make her happy, she didn't really care. I wanted to make sure that I address this. So if you feel similarly to that version of myself, you can get a different perspective. So we're going to get into some positive reasons as to why it's important to prioritize your happiness every single day. And that is, it gives you more energy on a day to day basis and long term. You're going to be that person that acts younger than they actually are because you have so much energy, because you're constantly recharging yourself. You're going to feel more present in your life. You're going to truly enjoy each day as it passes you by. This is something that I currently have experienced for the past 6 months. And wow, it's a joy. It's a joy to wake up every morning, even though I have things that I have to do that I don't really want to do. All the little things that I do that bring me joy and happiness makes everything that I don't want to do worth it every single time. It also makes you softer because you're more relaxed. It makes you more grateful for the little things in life, grateful that you're able to move your body, grateful that you wake up well rested, grateful that you have energy to accomplish so much every single day, and you feel more emotionally regulated. It's harder for you to be in a bad mood, and it's also harder for you to be in a bad mood for a long time because you're constantly doing things that make you feel good, no matter what. Ultimately, we wake up every day knowing that we're going to make ourselves happy no matter what. And we're not waiting for something to arrive or for someone to show up in some certain way for us to experience happiness. And that's a great feeling. Now, let's get on to some consequences of not prioritizing your happiness every single day. Number one is resentment. We start dreading going through our day because it's just not enjoyable. It's draining. Everything we're doing is not making us happy. So, of course, we're going to feel resentful. We're not going to enjoy waking up. We're not going to enjoy getting out of bed. We're not even going to enjoy going to sleep because we don't want to wake up and do everything again. Oh, I remember being there. And I believe most of us feel the same way when we're not prioritizing our happiness. We lay down in bed and we're exhausted, but we don't want to go to sleep because we didn't really get to enjoy our day yet. We were so busy doing a bunch of things that were draining. Another consequence is irritability. We're getting easily annoyed because we're not regulating ourselves. And there's no shame, there's no judgment. Like, I get irritability so strongly. I've definitely experienced it, especially when I don't get a good night's sleep. Ooh, I just know to stay out of people's way because I'm way more reactive than I usually am. And I get triggered a lot quicker than I usually do. Now, I'm just going to list a few more consequences that I wrote down because I want you to hear all of them. And hopefully, this will motivate you to start prioritizing your joy. We have emotional depletion, autopilot, disconnection from your desires. You're productive, but you feel unfulfilled. You're waiting for permission to feel good. You feel exhausted, and that becomes the new normal for you. You're neglecting yourself, but you're disguising it as maturity and responsibility. You're functioning every single day without experiencing any happiness. And lastly, you slowly abandon yourself, your needs, your feelings, and the things that you want from life. Ultimately, the consequence of not prioritizing your happiness every single day is that you end up living a life that doesn't make you happy. And happiness becomes a rare feeling that you experience, which is unfortunately the norm for many people in this world, but it should not be the norm. Overall, this episode is not about forcing yourself to be happy in moments where you're feeling sad and stressed out. This is about making intentional space for happiness for yourself every single day. Because if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for you, and you can be waiting a long time before you experience it. And you shouldn't have to. You don't have to. You're fully capable of doing it in little ways every single day, no matter how busy your schedule is, no matter how much responsibility you have for yourself and for other people. Also, this is not about striving for perfection. There are days where it is more of a challenge to feel happier than other days. That's life and it's inevitable. But what's most important is that we are consistent with pouring into ourselves, restoring our energy. Keep choosing the things that are making you look forward to life. And you will see, not only will you begin to love life more than you ever have before, you will also begin to really love yourself because you are the source of your own happiness. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I really, really loved discussing this topic. It's definitely been a big theme for me the past 6 months and just me as a 26-year-old. I just remembered now that I said that I would discuss how I gained motivation to come back and record podcast episodes when I was so drained from it a few months ago. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this portion in the episode. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if I do, here it is. First of all, I have to give credit to you guys. You are amazing and so genuine. Those of you that have reached out to me on Instagram and Threads have truly lifted me up when I was feeling pretty discouraged to continue for a few months. So I want to say thank you so much. Your kindness and your conversation, honestly, regarding the podcast truly motivated me to return earlier than I expected to. And second, I realized that while I was taking my break, I wasn't really replacing the time that I was spending recording podcasts and editing with things that were truly making me happy. I was only scrolling on my phone more, I was watching TV more than I ever have, and I don't even like to watch TV at all. And I realized, I don't think this is any better than being quote unquote overwhelmed and limited on time because of the podcast. At least when I was recording podcasts every week and I was editing every week, I felt the biggest high, which, if you're creative, you understand that every single time that you create something new and you share it, it brings you tremendous joy. And it's not a short term joy, it's something that can really lift your spirits for the week. And I was missing that. That's when I realized that, wow, podcasting and editing and just connecting with each and every one of you and sharing my experiences and what I've learned in life so far is bringing me so much joy. So I must prioritize it. And that's why I'm back sooner than I expected to be. So I hope you enjoyed my little update. I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on this week's topic. How do you prioritize your happiness currently? Or perhaps you don't agree. Maybe you don't believe it's possible to prioritize your happiness every single day. I'm open to all of it, of course. As always, you can message me on Threads or Instagram at She Is Artfully Woman. I would love to hear from you. I hope you all have an amazing week. I love you guys so much. Until next episode, bye for now.